Hi guys, JLA Shorts has now arrived. The best bits of the JLA channel in nugget form. Be a legend and subscribe to the channel by checking the link in the description. Cheers. Yeah, I'm wearing a hat. Can we move on? Hello everybody, welcome back to the James Lawrence Allcott channel. Hope you guys have had a lovely weekend and we now drive into this Monday and you're going to own it because you're the best. Specifically you. You're going to dominate. Enjoy it. Welcome back to the Fallout. It's been a few weeks, but we are back. And we're back with a bang because lots going on. I did a video yesterday talking about Rafa Benitez and the fact that he's got sacked and why Wayne Rooney is not the answer. Go check that video out when you get a chance. We'll dive into Everton in this. We'll talk about Newcastle and if Eddie Howe's getting a tune out of this team. But we've got to start. We have to start. There's no choice. We've got to start with the top of the table clash between Manchester City and Chelsea, because when we have a look at the stats of this game, it wasn't the top two going at it. There was a very clear way of how Chelsea play, and I'd love to know how Chelsea fans feel about this, because we're going to talk about Lukaku. There's been a lot of heat on him, and Match of the Day, they were talking about how he was kind of hard done by, Alan Shearer said. We'll look into that. But the bottom line here is that when we look at the details of this match, that's not an even game, even away from home. Chelsea haven't got anywhere near Man City, and partly this is down to just how good Man City are. But is this what you want as a Chelsea fan, to be playing these games and just sort of hanging in there? Like, it shows that there's either Man City are 3 levels above Chelsea, which is possibly true, or Chelsea need to push on. You know, it's tough. Let me know how you feel about it, just because the dominance was pretty hefty, let's say that at the very least. First thing to look at when we're looking at this Man City-Chelsea game was the fact that Chelsea set up a very similar way to the way they set up against Spurs, so that was a bit of a trial run for them. And I think the idea here was the fact that without real mobility when it comes to your wing-backs, Cesar Azpilicueta and Marcos Alonso, 2 great players, but 2 who, when you get to the elite level, don't truly have that mobility. They look to have them and allow them to be a little bit more defensively sound and almost play as a back 5 at times, and look to sort of stop the half spaces at times and come in a little bit narrower because they'd have to deal with the quality that Man City had. What they didn't think about, or what got skewed once the game happened, was the role of Raheem Sterling. Raheem Sterling was superb in this game, and that role on the right-hand side, which is something that we're not really used to seeing from him, was lovely. It was so nice to see. You kind of seen him in that old-school Liverpool role. In terms of Alonso, he had the runaround throughout the game, to be honest, and this back 3 was turned into a back 5 a lot of the time. And Alonso, he only won 50% of his ground duels, and Sterling was a big part of that. As I say, really vintage display from him in terms of how he just tore him a new one, to be honest. And the momentum and the dominance that they had came from how good City were defensively. As I say, like the look of it, when you look at XG and things like that, XG just provides an element of context. Yes, it was a tight game. Yes, there was sort of tactical subtleties to this, but defensively, City were just absolutely brilliant, as shown by the statistics here. And the big thing that they were able to do, they were so tenacious. There were a couple of things that were wrong with Chelsea. I felt like the body position of some of their midfielders was poor when they were getting the ball. They were getting the ball with their back to goal. And I felt they were kind of, because of that first game earlier in the season where Bernardo Silva was so superb in that defensive midfield role, sort of, they were kind of living in their heads rent-free a little bit, but they also were incredibly tenacious, as shown when we scroll down a little bit, that switch pass that the top teams love to do to stretch the play, it just really was not on at all for Chelsea in this game. 11 of their 45 long passes were successful. You know, the opposition there, 34 of their 51. I think that says a lot in this game. Bernardo Silva, absolutely influential, as we said. It was in the first game, was in this second game as well. Absolutely fantastic sitting there. He's just such a player, gets through so much work. And if you think of how brilliant Kovacic has been recently, and you look at the heat map there, and we'll show you Kovacic maybe in a second. Let's do it. Remember that heat map. all over Kovacic in this game. Absolutely all over him. There you go, in the exact same spots. Just didn't give him a chance. And Man City forcing Chelsea to relinquish possession really high up the pitch at times, kept that dominance and made them feel very, very stable defensively, as shown from the average positions once again, which Chelsea aren't used to. Man City really high up the pitch, really getting at them, and ultimately it looks like you feel like you're playing a back two there, which is what Man City would have wanted to do. Chelsea stuck in their own half and not really having that ability to counter-attack like they have done previously. Lukaku bad, or teammates making it difficult for him? So this is a debatable subject. As I say, Alan Shearer was sort of suggesting that there were moments when Lukaku could have been played through. And I think there's real truth in that, because especially when you're sort of struggling a little bit, and they were talking about it on BT Sport as well, this difficulty with like trying to kind of play out. You have to be kind of... It's a double-edged sword to this, because you have to be brave when someone is pressing against you, because they kind of smell blood with it. And that kind of invigorates the press a little bit, if that makes sense. So you have to attempt to play. Also, you have to attempt to play to suck out a team to then hit them on the counter-attack. And there were examples where they should have played much better, much quicker. That final pass should have been there for Lukaku, who is willing to run those channels. And you saw it in the footage where he was pointing and saying, give it a ball, give it a ball. That didn't happen. That said, he didn't complete a single dribble in this game against Man City. He was trying to play this sort of one-touch, two-touch stuff, which, again, when you're getting pressed from, be it Bernardo Silva and Rodri, your two centre-backs as well, the walls are closing in a little bit, and he didn't have a good game. He wasn't able to keep a hold of the ball, and he miscontrolled the ball 4 times. There was no one on the Chelsea side who miscontrolled the ball, more than once. So he wasn't someone who was able to stick the ball up to him and allow the team to move up. But at the same time, I don't think there was a chemistry there from a counter-attacking point of view in terms of that pattern of play to get the ball to him that little bit quicker. Felt like they were kind of caught between wanting to be that possession side that they can be and are, and generally are in every other game that they play, and getting caught in just how great Man City are defensively. I think the plaudits overall have to be to Man City, who were just... It was suffocating to watch, to be honest. And at that, again, when we're looking at Man United, which we're going to be looking at in just a second, that's the difference. It's that work rate. I come back to that question, though, with Chelsea. Do you start to demand more dominant attacking football in those kind of games? Yes, the blueprint has worked a few times and it's won you a Champions League. But moving forward in those kind of games, a Man City, have they kind of figured them out now? It's going to be difficult for them. And is that something that you're okay with? Before we get into Aston Villa versus Manchester United, we are very, very close to 150k. You could be the person that gets me over the line. And let's be honest, I want 200k. I really want to make this one of the biggest channels on YouTube. That's the dream for me. And I'd love to get to 200k by my birthday, which is April 28th. We had this dream last year with 100k. And I don't know, I thought you got to manifest these things. So if you would like to sort of help me start to make my way on that, yes, I'm beyond delighted to get to 150k. But let's keep moving, let's keep dreaming. And you guys are going to need you to keep subscribing. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel and you're still watching the video right now, then please do subscribe to the channel. Okay, let's take a look at Aston Villa versus Manchester United. And I think the one thing, the overarching theme when it comes to Man United so far is the fact that they haven't dominated a game of football yet. We know what they're trying to do in terms of the pressing. Sometimes we're seeing that, sure, as well. But in terms of a single match, they haven't really dominated for 90 minutes. And the thing that's noticeable is that, again, with the ball, you don't really know what they're trying to do here. I'm not really totally sure what the pattern of play is. If you think of the goal was just total luck. Emi Martinez basically throws the ball into the back of the net. Second goal, much better from a Man United perspective, but still pretty uninspiring. And Aston Villa, with some of the changes that they made, were able to kind of go for it. And that shows that this isn't a Man United side where they get 2 up and you go, okay, let's just like calm this down now. Maybe that's down to Steven Gerrard and his mentality. But the way that he made those changes, brought Coutinho on, it was interesting. And they weren't afraid of Man United. And that fear factor is really not there right now. So really the focus has to be on Aston Villa. Let's have a look at Aston Villa, because I think from the average positions here, and I do like always going to the average positions because I think from what is available to me, it's something that just gives me, it shows what is happening structurally. So I think it's worth utilising, and I like to utilise it personally, because I know a few people have been saying, why do you keep going to average positions? That's why. So first of all, this 4-3-3 is what Gerrard essentially did at Rangers. It looks like it's what he wants to do here, and we'll get on to Coutinho in a second, but my initial gut feeling that the Coutinho thing wouldn't work, I'm starting to wonder here, because when we look at the sort of narrowness of how Aston Villa want to play, it's really interesting, and it's something that could really help Philippe Coutinho, because maybe he's not got that same kind of pace, and really you want to kind of get him involved in the channels, really. That's the sort of dream when it comes to Coutinho. And now I haven't got Coutinho on at this moment in time, but what they're playing a lot of the time is this, as I say, this 4-3, can circle around him, and then 3. And it's very narrow. Now, the way they did it here with the likes of Ollie Watkins and Danny Ings, and a way of fitting those two players into the side, was to almost use Ollie Watkins as someone who could like bring in, hang on, let me just fix this, bring in that sort of third runner. And you can see that from his average position here. So Ollie Watkins is number 11. He's making the starting run here. Danny Ings was a bit more of a target man who would then spin and try and get himself into those areas. Emi Buendia being an option on this side. And then in terms of that midfield 3, Jacob Ramsey being the attacking threat. And let's remember, we said on this channel that Jacob Ramsey would dominate in 2022. And it was absolutely fantastic in this game. Go check out that video that we did. One player from every Premier League team that is going to dominate. But this narrowness is really interesting. First of all, because if you think of Coutinho coming into that, what it would mean is that maybe one of Watkins or Danny Ings won't play or won't start. Could be Ollie Watkins. I think it's more likely to possibly be Danny Ings, depending on the team and the style of play that they're up against. But also, what I think is really interesting is the fullback situation here. Lucas Digne, watch out for him, because he could have such a threat for them, because through the narrowness of those 2 10s, what you could end up having is that you need the fullbacks to be willing and to be those attacking players for them, and to show that kind of verve that from those wide areas, because those players will provide that width to allow Watkins to start wide and then make these runs in here. So Lucas Digne, keep an eye on him. Could be one for FPL as well, but him and Matty Cash looking really good on both sides when it comes to those fullbacks. It feels like a real upgrade, and the signings so far for Aston Villa look really, really promising. Norwich with a absolutely cracking win against Everton. Norwich hadn't won or scored in a Premier League match since November. Time for Everton. Adam Eder hadn't scored a Premier League goal. Time for Everton. And as time goes on, you do just start to wonder, like, is this some sort of like experiment to see how much a common football fan can take? I just have so much sorrow for Everton fans, because life and happiness is about expectation and kind of not being let down from that expectation. And if you're an Everton fan, I think you certainly are. In terms of expectations of Rafa Benitez, who of course has been sacked now, there was a feeling that he would be pragmatic and they would be tough to beat. But no, I mean, what was interesting here is the fact that Norwich were quite direct. Only 40% possession in the game, 60% possession for Everton. So you would expect them to be able to create a little bit more than that. But somehow, total shots, 14 for Norwich in this. And if you look a little bit further down, only 200 accurate passes, 70% pass completion in the game. I'll just circle it for you. They were quite direct. So why were they direct? The reason they were direct was because it was an obvious ploy for them to play. Because bizarrely, when we look at the average positions, I don't know what Everton were trying to do here. Look, a lot more narrow from Norwich, driving through the heart of the team. But again, the reason for that was because of how Everton set up. Everton set up with this really high line, which I didn't really understand. I don't really know what they were trying to do here. Because if you're going to press high, you kind of need people to run in behind. Surely. You need someone to run in behind. And, you know, yes, that could have been Richarlison, I guess. But Calvert-Lewin and Rondon, there's no precedent no evidence to suggest that this would work. And they're both effectively target men. So if you're going to have two target men, why? unless you've got these runners coming in behind, which didn't really happen clearly, I just don't see the point of playing both of them. Because again, if you're gonna have this high line, essentially you want to play in this half, and if you want to play in this half, essentially you need to be able to press. And by the average positions, that suggests that this wasn't happening whatsoever. Partly this could be down to the fact that Norwich were trying to play a little bit quicker, but the reason they were trying to play quicker is because if you've got bodies higher up the pitch like this, and then some midfielders here, there's 3 lines that you've got to get through to get to the final third for Norwich. But they didn't have to do that. They were so squashed up, Everton, that really, and especially when you've got someone like Pukki playing, you can either go around the side and get the cross in, which is where the first goal came from. Yes, it was just one of those days, and Michael Keane, look, can he get his body position better? Sure. But really, these balls over the top that they would have been looking to do, it's a lot easier to do because they were so sort of squashed together. It was so strange, and it was a just flabby, loose press from Everton. Calvert-Lewin pressed the most in the final third. He only pressed 7 times. If you think, say, someone like Mason Mount last year it was around 19 times he was pressing. Again, this could be down to the way that Norwich was sort of trying to get the ball up there, but it was just limp, really, really limp, and essentially, instead of it being Rafa Benitez coming in, it does feel like it was a bit like Agent Rafa sent from Anfield. Newcastle 1, Watford 1. Has Howe improved this team? Now, if you're being really harsh, and I saw Geordie say it, and I thought it was a good point. He said, we need to turn the screw on Howe now, because when it comes to the results aren't better. But what I would say is that overall, structurally, there is improvement. Okay, so stick with me. Let's have a little look at this. Now, first of all, this is the game against Watford earlier on in the season. And that is a mess to me. I don't really know what they're sort of trying to do. Essentially trying to use those front 2, and that's it, right? If we move forward to, let's have a look at the game at the weekend now, right? I feel like structurally there is a momentum sort of building up here. I feel like the game against Watford was maybe sort of a week too early, or a couple of weeks too early, because I think he's starting to put in place the ingredients and elements that he needs. I think he still needs a couple of players, which I'll show in just a second. But if I remember that first average position, this time that is so much more structurally sound. You can see what they're trying to do here. This is a 4-3-3. He has played 4-4-2, and it'd be interesting to see what happens when Callum Wilson arrives. But this was better. This felt better to me. But when you look at the sort of stats from the game, Watford had more shots. Newcastle weren't totally dominant. But you can see the structure of the team. You can see that what Trippier would bring to the team. And I do feel like they're a couple of signings away. It's sort of like 2 weeks ago, it's like, oh, can we get Trippier through the door? Last week, it was like, we need a striker now because Callum Wilson's not knocking about. This week, it's maybe a centre-back. And you saw that maybe with the goal that went in for them. But that understanding of a 4... You have that defensive midfielder, you've got your 3, you've got your target man in Chris Wood and 2 players playing off him. This is better. This is a much, much better structure. And with better personnel, then I think you're going to start to get somewhere. There is a question mark when it comes to Eddie Howe in terms of some of the teams that he's managed, or Bournemouth certainly. Yes, they were great going forward, but there was also a feeling that they were a little bit soft at times, and I think you could suggest that that's true in this game. Maybe it was the element of tension, but when we look at the momentum bar, Newcastle were looking pretty strong throughout this game. They got their goal in the 49th minute. Then they started to tense up, weren't able to kind of keep the ball, and that's a bit of a problem. In terms of keeping the ball and in terms of these new signings, there were positives. Trippier, as I was showing you there, Trippier was great in this game for them, or certainly very important. He had the most touches of any player for the Newcastle side, 92. The next most was Lascelles with 68. He created 3 shot-creating actions from right back as well, which was second best for the team as well. So he's got a huge part to play. You think of the link up between him and the quality he provides instead of being tidy, and those great passes to someone like Chris Wood, another signing as well. That's a great thing. But the problem here is that for them to score goals and be more effective higher up the pitch, they've got to get people into the box. And although they've been, again, if we think about Eddie Howe in terms of him being a sort of technical coach, what he's done with Joe Linton and thinking outside the box by keeping him outside the box, It's nice. I like it. It's fine. But is that going to win you games? And that's what Newcastle need to do, because they've had a good run of games here and they haven't secured enough points. And going into the games coming up, they need to do better. And when we look at the players on the pitch here, look at that midfield. Who's getting in the box? It's just Chris Wood, really. Alan St-Maximin, again, out wide, not really getting himself into the box. Ryan Fraser on the other side. Again, people aren't getting in the box. So when it comes to the next set of transfers that Newcastle will inevitably want to put together, for me, you need that attacking midfielder to sort of knit it together. I got a lot of heat for saying that Joe Linton wouldn't be in my starting lineup for Newcastle. The reason for that is that setup, that 4-3-3, is something that could really work for them, but you need someone who's going to kind of help Chris Wood work around Chris Wood and get into the box, because that's how you're going to score goals, and you're not really getting that from Joe Linton as well as he has been playing. They also need a centre-back. Bring in those two players, and I think you'll start to see the difference. So there you have it, guys. I really hope you've enjoyed the video. It's so great to bring the fallout back. If you are enjoying it and you are still watching, do consider hitting the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell as well. We do all sorts of lives, so many big games coming up, and I think we're going to be doing more phone-ins soon as well. So if you want to be on the channel, then, of course, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out and you get a notification bell when we go live. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you very, very soon. Ta-da.